A lot of people confuse flaw problems with weakening problems, and that's understandable because they do resemble each other. However, flaw is a distinct question type because it is different. Weakening problems can be easier. On a weakening problem, it is your job to brainstorm an external assumption, which again is something the author did not state or mention and may have overlooked and not taken into account or consideration. You sort of draw in some new information from outside the premise that basically makes the conclusion look bad. On a flaw problem, the conclusion already looks bad. In fact, it's screamingly bad, and it should jump out at you as patently ridiculous. So it's not your job to identify new information that further weakens the conclusion, but instead to describe exactly why it's already weak. In other words, what did the author do wrong? How do you know you have a flaw problem? You know you have a flaw problem if in the question you see context clues like, of course, the word flaw and its forms, or phrases like does not or fails to take into account or consideration, or what is apparently the favorite among exam writers, the phrase vulnerable to criticism. Flaw problems can be more difficult because, like boldface and method of argument problems, the answer choices can be so rhetorical. The exam writers may test you on common logical fallacies, for example, overgeneralizing, or its opposite, overspecifying, false correlation, or confusing one thing for another thing. And the answer choices can be rhetorical because the exam writers may substitute very general terms for what was very specific information in the premise. For example, let's say I have a premise that's about food and I'm writing about complex carbohydrate, and I mention rice, bread, and pasta and the amount of energy they provide. In the answer choices, you will not see any information about food, carbohydrate, rice, bread, pasta, or energy. Instead, you will see terms like category, that's complex carbohydrate, items, that's rice, bread, and pasta, and characteristic, the amount of energy they provide. So you feel as though when you look at the answer choices, you're sort of swimming in this rhetoric soup, this word salad of verbiage. So it's very important to bear in mind clearly and consistently what the general terms and the answer choices are referring to in the original premise, and then go from there. So that's an introduction to flaw problems. To read more in detail, including an example problem and answer explanations, please visit my website. I include the link in the description. For a private lesson with me, please contact me also via my website. That information too is in the description. I've worked online with people from all over the world, and I'd love to work with you. Take care.